Another link in this chain is RCS's High School Violence Prevention Program. Different than traditional prevention initiatives, this innovative program targets young men and women ages 14 to 18, their parents and school site staff, to stand up and speak out against sexual violence. Beginning September 17th through September 24th, we will be launching our high school violence prevention programs through a series of events at 5 local high schools and 1 middle school. Our high school violence prevention program, incorporating the My Strength clubs, you see some of the posters around you, and the I Expect Respect clubs, is made possible through a grant through the California Department of Public Health and Fresno County's Office of Education, the Migrant Program Region 4. And we're very excited to launch those programs, and we're also extremely excited and looking forward very much to working with the police department in ending sexual violence in our communities. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, and with that, we'll open up to any questions you might have regarding this.
How many of these rapes have resulted in an arrest?
Do you have those numbers, David?
Yes, 52% of the rapes reported this year have resulted in an arrest.
So 52% of the cases we have arrests that have resulted, well, are going through the criminal process.
How difficult is it when you have a he said, she said, sometimes there's no evidence? Does that make it more of a challenge? Tell me about the challenges involved in arresting somebody for a crime like this.
Historically, anytime you have two things involved, when it's a he said versus she said, it makes that difficult, that case difficult to prosecute. And it becomes especially more difficult to prosecute when there's alcohol and or drugs involved and the people are acquainted with one another. But that doesn't mean that those cases aren't successfully prosecuted frequently, because they are. And much of the reason that they are successfully prosecuted is based on the evidence that is collected by the investigators, and also as a result of what folks from RCS do, as well as what our advocate will do. And that is to help the victim through the process and make sure that what they're providing to the detectives and ultimately in the criminal case, prosecution case, is information that will help successfully prosecute that person. We have come a long way in terms of the victim in these types of cases being supported more by the criminal justice system. There was a point in time that there was a reluctance on the part of victims to even bring forth these types of cases because they felt that they would be re-victimized by the criminal justice system, that they would not be believed, that it would be her word against his word. Fortunately, we have made a lot of progress, and that is no longer the criminal justice system in which we operate within. We are seeing successful prosecution of cases all the time where it is the victim's word against the suspect's word with very little other evidence. The courts have been especially sensitive to this issue, and that's the way it should be, because there's far too many individuals out there taking advantage and physically or sexually assaulting and abusing women.
Any idea why we're seeing this increase?
You know, I can, you guys want to, I mean, it would be speculation, I think, in a number of areas.
It would be speculation, Chief.
And who knows what influences those types of cases to occur. I really don't know. But what we do know is that we need to respond better as a law enforcement agency and as advocates. And so it's difficult to say. You know, oftentimes we can explain why stranger abductions or rapes occur. There's a pattern, a series, and we can attribute it to one or two people. But this isn't the case. So it's difficult to explain why the numbers are on the rise.
Chief, with this two-person team, sometimes do you feel like we're walking a fine line versus policing versus advocating for the department or advocating for the victim?
Well, I think that requires two answers, one from me, one from RCS, whoever wants to respond. We are very respectful of the confidentiality that needs to occur with victims. We are very conscious of that. our advocate is very conscious of it. But there is information that we need in order to successfully investigate and ultimately prosecute that case. And so it is a balance. It's a fine line in terms of how that information is shared, but it's one that we understand, and it's one that we are really conscious of. You want to talk about it?
It's really important to have our advocates build on our already existing relationship with local law enforcement agencies. And as Chief Dyer stated that having an advocate working alongside with a detective, it enhances the services and the response to that victim. And we are very clear what our role is as an advocate, and we are also very clear what the role is of the detective. So the two positions and the two roles really complement one another.
When will the advocate start work?
She's currently going through our state-mandated sexual assault counselor training and orientation. As soon as she completes that, then she'll be ready.
A couple of weeks or so, you think, or sooner than that?
Yes, I would say a couple of weeks.
Now, is the advocate part of the police department? Has she been a part of the police department in the past, and now she becomes an advocate, or how's that going?
Susan has been part of the police department as an advocate with different units within the police department. Susan will be working for RCS, stationed and located at the Fresno Police Department. So her role as an advocate is very clear and defined.
Is there already an office there? You said she had been working with police already.
Yes, she'll have a workspace there made available to her by the police department.